What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Pick Six Podcast, CBS Sports Daily NFL Podcast. I'm Brinson, I'm your host. We're going to do some betting trends and talk some A.J. Brown. I guess we'll talk revenge games. I don't know if I'm still allowed to do that. Corporate's all over me on it. Joining me to do so, Tyler Sullivan, a.k.a. Sully, and for the first time, making her debut on the Pick Six Podcast, friend of the pod, Katie Mox. What's up, Katie Mox? Kelly,
what's up? Good. Thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here.
You're not going to laugh at the Kelly thing? Come on, please.
Kelly, I didn't even hear you say, Brian, come on. Yes. Well, do you want to tell everybody how this came about, that I accidentally called you Brian on Sportsline one night?
No, I just think it's funny.
We pull off a Brian Wilson, Brinson.
Actually, Joe Musso called Ryan Wilson Will Brinson on Sunday night.
Oh, well, that's better. That's better.
No, that's worse. That's much
now
worse.
Breach and I need to get confused with one another.
I think somebody put in the teleprompter Will Brinson instead of Ryan Wilson, and Musso's sort of like a Ron Burgundy type who just reads off the prompter.
Yes.
It's got a decent set of hair, but just nothing other.
No, that's not true. That's not true. He's Joe is a pro. Joe is a pro. Look at me rhyming already.
Just to be clear, everything we say on this show is sarcastic.
Yeah.
Except for the fact
especially the football analysis.
Correct. 100%. Yes.
Good.
If you're here for serious football analysis and you've been here for like multiple years, I mean, really, what are you doing at this point? Anyway, we're gonna do some betting trends. I guess am I okay? Let me ask you this. I'll go to you first, Katie Mox, because you looked at me like I was a crazy person when I came in here all fired up about John Robinson being fired as the GM of the Titans. I don't remember, and granted, my memory has been terrible since like 1997 for various reasons.
Okay.
But mostly because I'm old. But I do not remember a GM of a first place team being fired after week 13. Like, that's kind of unusual, right?
Totally unusual. And I'm actually pretty shocked about it as well. I mean, you said they're leading their division. Now it is probably the worst division in football, but still 7-5. It's still kind of a respectable record, but it just seems to me that, ownership doesn't like trading away your best player in A.J. Brown and then having him torch you and say that it was personal. So yeah, this does seem like something personal, which is what you were kind of saying in the pre-show, and it is quite shocking. And I think he's kind of the scapegoat here on this one. But they've only beat one team with a losing record, which is Washington. They haven't been able to do well against the NFL elite. But I do think that they're going to end the season fine. I mean, they've got the Jaguars twice, the Texans, the Chargers, Cowboys. They can win 2 of those games. They'll probably still win the division. But yeah, this is shocking.
Yeah. Look, and to be clear, I am not leading anybody on this podcast into the idea that John Robinson was fired because A.J. Brown was traded this offseason. And then
it's there.
I mean, the timing is a little unusual.
Yeah.
I think what happened, Sully, is that Mike Vrabel, who is like one of the best coaches in football, pulled a coup of sorts on John Robinson because he wants, as Bill Parcells once said, to buy the groceries. And Mike Vrabel didn't have the authority to buy the groceries because John Robinson had the ultimate say of the roster. And you can go back and watch the video. I tweeted it out. Watch the video during the draft. The NFL Network is filming it. And they trade A.J. Brown. And Mike Vrabel stands up. And it's like, he looks like he wants to, and
yeah,
this is like a Marvel dork thing, but it looked like he wanted to go Bruce Banner into Hulk, man. He's like about to explode out of this tie and this jacket. And he's like, I cannot believe you traded that man instead of just giving him money. And I have to believe, Sully, that like if Vrabel, and you're going to start seeing it come out, it's like Vrabel's now has control over personnel. Vrabel's going to pick who the guy is. Like he's going to bring in his own guy and he's in charge of this team now, I think.
Yeah, no, I think that's a great thing to point out too. Obviously, the A.J. Brown timing of all of it, yeah, it makes sense, and you can easily point to that as being the reason. But it does stem way far beyond that, and it does feel like there was division on that decision, as you see in that clip there from the draft. It's shocking nonetheless, like we're talking about. I mean, this is a guy who has put his team in a position to contend in the AFC for the last few years here, and they've done it in a kind of obscure way. If you go all the way back to the Ryan Tannehill signing. I mean, it's not like they draft developed and brought a quarterback in that's, elite. They picked a guy out of a haystack and were able to recreate this thing on the fly. So for me, that almost makes it even more impressive for what he's done over the last few years. It's not like he had a number 1 overall pick and brought in this generational quarterback. They did it with Ryan Tannehill over these last few years. And so, yeah, you could say that obviously, that was a bad move to get rid of AJ Brown, and you should have just probably given him the money. But overall, I feel like he's built up more goodwill than he's lost over the last few years. I guess maybe that's not how they see it that way.
Marcus Mariota was there and was drafted by Rustin Webster, was the old GM. I'm trying to remember, God, what's the name of the guy with the old Titans personnel guy who's got he said the most unbelievable mustache you ever seen in your life. I'll find it. I'll figure it out. I'll remember it. It's like this long droopy like inspector from the old British Parliament. It's Floyd Reese. No, is it Floyd Reese? No, Nada. I was going to ask Nada to look for a picture. Nada sent that in the chat. Sorry,
Steve Underwood.
It's Steve Underwood. Yes. Nada, if you can bring him a
now.
picture of Steve Underwood, this mustache is just tremendous. It's like if
it looks like he ate a powdered donut. That's really what it is.
you can't see his mouth. It's unbelievable. Floyd Reese was an old Titans GM though, but yeah, they that crew brought in Mariota, and then I think at that point there was a transfer of ownership. That's when A.B. Adam Strunk came in. There was Mike Mularkey there for a little bit. And look, Mike Vrabel took over. John Robinson. They worked together for a long time. Things have been good. I'm telling you, man, I think the A.J. Brown thing was the breaking point. Mike Vrabel truly believes he can't, like he's being hamstrung because he doesn't have any wide receivers. And instead of just paying A.J. Brown, he's, Treylon Burks a good player. Robert Woods a good blocker. But, they ain't got anybody. How are you going to win with nobody?
Well, that would be my biggest
thing. Look at that thing. He looks like Bane. He's like Fuzzy Bane.
It's true.
My God.
He looks like a descendant of Colonel Sanders, right? That's the KFC guy. I feel like there's a little bit of a KFC vibe.
Not to be mean, but it also, tis the season. He almost looks like a Whoville. Like someone from Whoville a little bit. He's kind of like, I feel like somebody would have that mustache.
It's like if Horton from Whoville and Colonel Sanders had a mutual relative.
I don't know how he eats though, because it's not cleaned up around his mouth. So you got to think he's getting some in there while he's chewing.
You need to be careful because this could spawn an entirely separate
different conversation.
Yeah, it'd be like we're like, oh, it's been 30 minutes. We haven't talked about a single game in week 14. We talk about Steve Underwood's facial hair for. I agree. How would you eat with that? But
I don't know.
It's covering both his lips. It's insanity.
Oh.
Do you think he still has it? No point. Mrs. Underwood's like, hey, bro, could just.
This dude's probably had it for years now, right? I mean, at this point,
it's the 30s.
It's not like he was keeping it during his NFL career, and once he left the NFL, he's like, all right, I can finally take this thing off.
I cannot wait for the angry note from corporate about the 2 minutes because it's coming. Okay, sorry. Now I'm all. This thing is throwing me for a complete loop. But it's the GM got fired week 13. Let's talk about totals. The totals this week are really weird. There are, Sully, I think 2 totals 37 or lower, and then 2 totals 52 or higher. It's a very wide range. If you were going to pick one total you like on the slate, what would you go with?
It's one of those high ones, and it's super. The Vikings and Lions at 53.5 is massive. It's the donkiest of donkey moves, but it just feels like this game's going to naturally end 28-27. It just feels like that's going to happen, right?
You're going to talk me off it.
I mean, I'll ride Dominic the donkey all the way to the over on this one.
Katie, what do you think? Over Minnesota?
Over. Yeah. Well, I mean, the Detroit Lions have gone over on a lot of games. They've had like four or 5 games that have gone over 30 points. So yeah, I like this over.
Sorry.
What?
It's jumped out to 2.5. That's kind of crazy. It was 1 earlier today.
You look at this Minnesota defense over the last few weeks, this season really, passing yards allowed, last in the NFL, yards per attempt, last in the NFL. That's a great recipe for a Lions team that loves putting up points and loves running it with Jamal Williams at the 1 yard line. And on the opposite side of things, you have Justin Jefferson, Kirk Cousins, who's playing well. It just feels like this is a recipe for a high scoring game. Obviously the total indicates that, but I think you're looking at high 20s on both sides, and you're looking at probably around 55.
You couldn't talk me off it. Katie, you like a total on the board at all this week?
I like the under in the Niners and the Bucks game. This is one of the lowest ones, 37 and a half. And it's low, but for very good reason. Niners, of course, number 1 defense in the NFL. They're also number 1 in points allowed per game, only 15.8. Tampa Bay, number 5, 18.3. Most of the Bucks matchups have ended in 40 or less scored this season. And I don't see Brock Purdy putting up 30 points against Tampa like he did against the Dolphins. I mean, anything is possible, I guess, with Brock Purdy. The kid looked, I don't know, he looked pretty decent coming in for Jimmy Garoppolo, but I see this one closer to like the Saints game and maybe the Niners just getting a couple touchdowns, maybe about 17 points. Also, outdoor divisional unders are hitting at 69% this season. And Tom Brady and the Bucs offense did not look that great last night, although Tom Brady did decide to come back and win the game, but not cover the spread like a jerk last night. So
I was hoping for some was it SVP calls pitchy woo woo at the end, like the Saints get that 3-second kickoff and they try to lateral it and it's like a fumbles in the end zone and then recover, but no, it's not to be. By the way, shout out to
it's so like Tom Brady. Yeah, what?
I know. Shout out to Sharky's in Raleigh, great Saints bar. My buddy Nick and his dad run it, and I was there for the first half. Delightful place. I like that under too.
Yeah,
it's like there's no chance that Kyle Shanahan's going to uncork Brock Purdy against Tampa.
No, they're going to run the ball. Yeah,
and they're both sides are going to run the ball and like sort of like play around, and then eventually somebody's going to try to steal the win late. Like,
and I don't feel like this Buccaneers offensive line is anything to write home about. So you're talking about this pass rush for San Francisco wreaking havoc all over Tom Brady. And what we've seen from the Buccaneers this year, and you saw it again last night, as you were saying, Katie, about this offense not really firing on all cylinders. If all of a sudden Nick Bosa is able to get at Tom Brady and put them into 3rd and long situations, 3rd and 9+, the Buccaneers have had the worst conversion percentage since 2000 in that spot, 3rd and 9 or more. And you saw that they were 0 for 4 last night in that type of setting as well. It's impossible, even when you have Tom Brady. And with the recipe that I see here is pass rush for San Francisco, putting Tampa Bay in impossible situations. And that's the recipe for this thing to go under and be low scoring.
Agree completely. By the way, obviously I went out of order on the rundown, which is prone to happen sometimes. But there are other quarterback situations just like Brock Purdy. I think that's the way to bet that one, is to take the under on that one. Lamar Jackson is going to be out, and DeSean Watson playing his 2nd game. Matthew Stafford's done for the year, mercifully. I mean, it just took you long enough, McVay. Sit him. Sit everybody. Play for 2023, pal. Katie, what would you, when you look at these quarterback situations, I mean, Walford is catching 6 at home on Thursday.
Yeah.
And Snoop Huntley is catching 3 on the road with a total of 37. Not exactly a robust AFC North total there. 1 o'clock on CBS, by the way. On Sunday, either of those entice you at all with getting the points of the backup quarterback?
I'm taking Purdy. I'm taking the points with that one. I know that's not one that you asked me on. When I look at this Ravens game, I think it's actually kind of interesting because the line opened up with the Steelers actually as dogs originally, 4.5-point dogs. Then it swung completely in the opposite direction. Ravens, of course, now getting 3 with Lamar Jackson out. Harbaugh saying he's week to week, but he's less likely to start this week. So the interesting trend about this one, since the start of the 2015 season, 8 of 14 Steelers versus Ravens games finished 4 points or closer, and 3 of those even went into overtime. The underdog 18-2 against the spread, covering 90% of the time. But then you got someone like Tyler Huntley getting the start. He's 1-3 as a starter, throwing for 2 touchdowns and 4 picks against the TJ Watt. I don't know. I think I'd have to take the Steelers in that one.
Sully, what do you think about this? I mean, the total is 37, and like it could be lower. Like neither team's going to score a ton, and it does feel like. I think, was it 2 of the Huntley games last year? By the way, what are you doing? Showing up here with research, Katie. What's happening here?
Sorry.
How dare you? Enough people that you look bad on this podcast already. I feel like two of the games with Huntley last year, they went for two. May have just been one. I know the Packers game with Huntley. It was sort of like Harbaugh's like, F it. Like, we're kind of, we know we're up against it anyway. You want to get the three there with Huntley, or are you laying the Steelers?
Yeah, no, I'm going to take the three here, and kind of like what you were referencing a little bit too. All of those 4 starts that he had last year, they were decided by 3 points. If you're telling me I'm getting 3 with an offense, it's not going to change. It's, sometimes when we see these quarterbacks take over, the offense completely has to kind of cater to what they do. It doesn't really have to change too much. Tyler Huntley and Lamar Jackson have similar skill sets. Obviously, the higher ceiling is Lamar Jackson, obviously, but it's not like they have to reinvent the wheel. He's been in this situation before, and he's going up against a Steelers offense that isn't exactly the Kansas City Chiefs or the Cincinnati Bengals. They're not going to ask him to go toe-to-toe with Joe Burrow or Patrick Mahomes. It's Kenny Pickett, a rookie. It's, for me, I will gladly take, if it was 2.5 last I saw it, if it's 3, I'm thrilled. I'm taking that, and I'm trusting that Harbaugh and Tomlin keep this game close.
I got a hot take on a quarterback situation that I referenced. DeSean Watson, right? Second game, looked like crap against the Texans in his super awkward revenge game. Joe Burrow is 0-4 against the Browns in his career. Do you think Joe Burrow will hear about that this week? Because I do. And last year, yeah, I mean, it's going to be like a talking point, right? Like,
it lives in his head. You don't even need to talk about it. He knows it. It's living in his head, rent free.
So last year, I've mentioned this a few times. The final 4 games that he played, he completed 76% of his passes, 11 touchdowns, no interceptions, 370 yards per game, 10.5 yards per pass attempt. Insane numbers. He didn't play week 18 against the Browns because they sat him for seeding purposes. I think he would have torched the Browns in week 18, and I think he wants to torch the Browns now. So I love the Bengals laying 6 here. I think that it's like kind of inflated where people are like, well, Deshaun's back, Joe Burrow can't beat the Browns. I love the Bengals laying 6 here. I know that's sort of chalky, but I think Joe Burrow is about to go on a tear, like an absolute tear, and they're going to flirt with the number 1 seed. That's a hot take. That's my hot take. By the way,
I would agree with you.
So
I agree with you on that one. Well, I mean, first of all, DeSean Watson didn't look good last week. I mean, of course, I guess we can't expect him to look great. He took 2 years off, but he was 12 of 22, 131 yards and interception. The defense actually posted 2 touchdowns, and then they had that punt return touchdown as well. You got Joe Mixon and Hayden Hurst, who are questionable, but like you said, no Jamar Chase in the last one. Joe Burrow coming off of beating Patrick Mahomes, the first quarterback ever to beat Mahomes 3 times in a row. My thing with DeSean Watson is I don't think he's ever going to be that good again, because I don't know how you get over the world knowing that you're a creep. You know what I mean? Like, think about your deepest, darkest.
I mean, as a non-creep, I don't know, but I mean, I understand what you're saying. Like, no, like it is like it took Tiger Woods forever to like.
Yes,
like,
that's what I mean.
Yeah, no, I agree with you completely. It's you're every time you like step foot in public, you're thinking, unless you're a sociopath.
Everyone knows. Yeah. Which
you may very well be, but like, you know what I'm saying? Like, yeah, like I mean, I would just move to Alaska. I'm not kidding. Like, I wouldn't be able to handle, like, you step out, it's like literally 60,000 people are looking at you, and all you can think is, they know. Everyone knows.
Right, and they're screaming at you and calling you names and stuff, which, rightfully so. But I don't know that we're going to see him play well this year. I really don't. And Joe Burrow's just a stud.
I like that take.
I do wonder, though, quickly, just because I think I like the over in this game at 47. I do wonder that, this is a situation with DeSean Watson, because I think that the Bengals is going to score 1 billion points. Like, they'll be fine. But in terms of helping us get over with the Cleveland Browns offense, I do wonder, now that he's actually have a game under his belt, the Houston game is over, can he at least a little bit play free and loose against the Bengals team, who has shut down teams in the second half, particularly in the fourth quarter, but early on they have given up some points? Can he at least put up a couple of scoring drives catered to maybe something with the defense giving you a short field in the running game with Nick Chubb? Can you at least get me into the teens and then hope that Joe Burrow and the rest of that Bengals offense can blow doors. I do think that that's possible that can get us over.
Well, I mean, one thing too, when you look at like, this for like more DFS purposes than anything else, but Nick Chubb is the really rare running back. Derrick Henry does it too, where just because they're so explosive that they can actually accelerate the pace of a game with the rushing attack. So like Chubb could rip off a 70-yarder, and all of a sudden it's like the Bengals are forced to sort of, increase their pass expectancy or pass rate over expectancy. And then all of a sudden you have, more scoring, even if Watson isn't very good. And of course you can hit Cooper for a deep shot. So I love the over in that spot too. Okay. I did some research as well, which I do frequently, but then I actually got yelled at for doing the research. It's like, don't read that on the podcast.
Damned if you do,
Can't win
if you don't.
I mean, really.
Can't win.
So the Cowboys are minus 17 and a half, I think, right?
Yep.
I looked it up. Since 2002, 17 games have been minus 17 and a half or higher. 4 of those involved. Actually, I'm reading it, but whatever. The 2007 Pats, 17 now. So my goodness. Total of 45. I think it's notable though, that like, if you shrink it down to just more recently and you sort it since 2010, so like the last 12 years, you actually only get 11 games. This would be 12. And I think it's like 6-2 to the under. And so I understand that like that's not a blind reason to take the under because we're talking about a small sample size. These games involve the 2019 Dolphins a lot, the 2020 Jets, and the 2021 Texans. And look who's back again here, the 2022 Texans. But the Cowboys like to run it. They already showed off for Odell Beckham on Sunday night. They ran up the score. They're fine pounding the ball with Zeke Elliott and Tony Pollard. And I think that they would be absolutely okay with, getting a win here in comfortable fashion without running up the score. And we could see like 31-10. And it's like you get a late touchdown from the Texans, like a Nico Collins garbage time toss from Kyle Allen, and you still easily get under. What do you say, Katie?
Yeah. Well, first of all, if you're going to take a minus 17 spread, I feel like you're just a square. You know what I mean? Like you got to root for the plus 17 on this. And I do think that, the Texans, they did cover against the Eagles, right? They were a huge double-digit spread earlier this year. And I agree with you. I think that they get a comfortable lead and then they kind of sit for a while. I don't think this is going to get to 17. And I can't imagine sitting there sweating out a minus 17. Like that sounds like the worst game of my life to watch there. So I would take, if I'm going to take the Dallas, I might look at a first half and see what that is, or maybe a Dallas team total on their over. But if we're looking at a spread of 17, give me the Texans all day.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. Just because, you look at a couple of weeks ago too, when they were 14-point favorites, or the Dolphins were 14-point favorites against the Texans. They mailed it in after dropping 30 in the first half, and you sit back, you're in kind of a victory situation, but all of a sudden, Texans score 15 garbage time points. You're kind of sweating it out a little bit. Obviously, you still end up covering, but 17 points, that is just way too much for me to feel like you're comfortable laying and sitting there for 4 quarters being like, oh, I got this. This isn't a huge problem whatsoever. You saw what they did to the Colts last week. They're not doing that 2 weeks in a row, not because they can't do it. It's because they're probably just going to have Cooper Rush or whoever playing at the tail end of this game.
I was furiously Googling Jaguars Broncos 2013 point spread, CBSSports.com. And it turns out I used to write things for this website.
Wow.
Yeah. I actually even made a, I'm not going to tell you what the joke is. It's too terrible I'm not going to tell. But anyway, the Jaguars, this would be my picks in week 8. The Jaguars were plus 16.5. And I pointed out that the Jaguars were in better shape than the Buccaneers, and then said, having said all that, I'm like a transfer portal guy. Like, having said all that, I will be leaving this school. You just can't take the Texans, but I think you have to. I would just prefer to take the under if you're going to take anything in that spot. Sure. It's just, typically speaking, these big dogs later in the season are more apt to cover.
Yeah,
because we know about the teams, and I think the under is a good look. All right, let's take a quick break, and when we come back, we'll pick some home dogs and some stinky cheese next.
Don't stop watching. Christian Pulisic.
Outstanding from the American.
All skill, all class, and all American at work across the pond.
Pulisic finds the net.
The UEFA Champions League. Stream Chelsea matches live February on Paramount Plus.
So the home dogs this week are kind of intriguing. I think they are anyway. The Chargers. The thing about the Chargers is they're never like, no matter where they play. They're +3. Cardinals are +1. The Broncos are +9. God rest your soul if you want to take the Broncos. The Giants are +7. And I believe the Rams are +6 on Thursday night. Katie Mox, do any of those home dogs intrigue you as a possible?
I like the G-Men +7. I feel like a touchdown is a lot to give in a divisional matchup, and certainly one that's as tight as the NFC East is right now. Philly's D, middle of the pack against the run, allowing 118 rush yards per game. You get Saquon Barkley going. And we do know that the Giants love these single possession games. They're one of the luckiest teams at covering in those single possession games. So when this was down to 6.5, I could see, laying that with the Eagles, but 7, and I feel like it's going to even tick up higher than that to be maybe 7.5 or 8. I like the G-Men at home.
Sully, what about you?
That's my pick too. New York 3-0 against the spread as a home dog this season. Philadelphia as a road favorite, 1-4 against the spread. They haven't been a good bet on the road this season. Philadelphia, as much as they're legitimately in the Super Bowl conversation, probably going to be the number 1 seed in the NFC. They haven't really been a great bet going on the road, especially when they're giving up points here. So for me, let me go with the Giants. Let's see what happens with Brian Daboll in this offense and Daniel Jones playing decent football. It's not like this team is obviously, they've been banged up and all of that, but they can run the football with Jones. They can run the football with Saquon Barkley. This feels like one of those division games where it's closer than you expect it to be.
It'd be interesting to see too, the Eagles rush defense came out gangbusters against Derrick Henry last week, but they have not been very good this year. So is that something that's changing, or is that just sort of a blip on the radar? Because if it's a blip on the radar, we could have a Saquon blow-up game, and all of a sudden they've got a lead. And
I'll say this: it's because Jordan Davis returned. That was a huge piece to obviously that run defense. But again, it just feels like this is one of those games. And I was against them last week too. I had the Titans in the points, and I obviously burned on that one. But me and Robinson not having a great time.
Nice job, John Robinson. What are you thinking there?
But I do feel like this is one of those division games that gets a little bit closer than what you think. And if we're getting a full touchdown, I feel pretty good with the Giants.
I don't hate it. I can't take the Broncos. I can't. I think they'll probably cover 9 at home is insane. Right. Yeah, literally vomiting thinking about taking the Broncos. I'm going to do something even stupider probably. I'm going to say the Rams. John Wolford and the Rams. 6 is a lot for the Raiders.
But they're going to be without everybody. No Cup. They've got no Stafford and probably no Aaron Donald.
Oh, definitely no Aaron Donald. They might even sit Jalen Ramsey. They got nobody. It makes no sense to take the Rams. None. And I'm going to do it anyway. The Raiders are capable. The Raiders have given up multiple double digit leads. Everyone was trying to fire Josh McDaniels 4 weeks ago, and they just ripped off 3 wins. Impressive stuff. If Ramsey plays, I do think it hampers their offense a little bit because he can actually lock down Devontae Adams and you just force him to try to run with Jacobs. The Rams have been kind of stingy against the run. I don't think this will be a pretty cover, but it's Thursday night football. Sean McVay has some pride here because he's never had a losing season. This could be his first one ever. I think they find. I don't think they win. They find a way to have a sloppy cover.
I get a little nervous of that because I do think the Raiders pass rush is starting to come alive a little bit. Yep. And when you're talking about a backup quarterback and John Wolford, I don't know if all of a sudden Max Crosby and Chandler Jones are breathing down your throat, that feels like a turnover waiting to happen.
To be clear, I fully expect to feel like an idiot at 10 o'clock on Thursday night, which happens.
Or a hero. And then we'll never hear the end of it about how you predicted.
That's probably more likely.
Oh my God, that's devastatingly accurate. All right, moving along. Well, yeah. Either I'm an idiot or a hero. That's how I like to go out in the blaze of glory, one way or the other. Right. Who wants to be a middleman? Stinky cheese of the week. So I identified a couple lines that I think absolutely are rancid. The Titans minus 3.5 against the Jaguars. It makes it make it make sense. The Lions now minus 2.5 would make that make sense. Like that one's climbing. Like everyone should want to take the Vikings. The Niners minus 3.5 with no offense, Katie. Brock Purdy starting.
It's 4 now. That's gone up to 4.
These are some I mean, come on. Like, I know that, and then the smelliest one of all, I think, is the Seahawks minus 3.5 against Sam Darnold. So you can pick first, Katie, as our honored guest here.
I'm in Seahawks minus 3.5. I think Seattle are frauds, and I have been saying this pretty much all season long. They barely beat the Rams without all of their star players. They didn't even cover the spread. I believe they were by a touchdown. Sam Darnold looked okay last week. You know, the Panthers have the rest advantage here. But the reason why I think this is kind of like a stinky cheese situation is because the Seahawks have the Niners next week. That's their big game. That's what they're looking forward to. I feel like we can get caught up in the look ahead. They might think, oh, the Panthers not very good. Sam Darnold, this is going to be an easy game. We're looking to prepare for next week and get caught up in this one. So I actually think that the Panthers could squeak out a win here.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Is there a revenge angle? I don't have a revenge angle for the Panthers. I don't think there is one there. Seahawks. No. I'll find one. Don't worry. I completely missed. Dude, I missed the Malik Hooker revenge game. I'm so mad about that. Anyway. Sully, what do you think? What smells here?
Yeah, I'm going to go with the Vikings on this one. I mean, we're talking about a team that is in the conversation as a Super Bowl favorite, or as a Super Bowl threat, not a favorite, obviously. But they're in that conversation. And you're going up against the Detroit team who has been playing better recently, and obviously they put up whatever it was. Was it 40 points? Did they get a 40 burger on the Jaguars last week? Was that
it was like 44-13.
44. Crazy number. And I think that, because their defense has been playing better, they're scoring a ton of points. A lot of money's going to go in with Detroit, but I don't know. I just still feel like this is a team that is going to be in it, clearly going to win that division. I'll go.
So you're saying you like the Vikings. So
the Vikings.
You're taking the cheese.
I guess.
You're at Fresh Market. Do you guys have Fresh Market? You guys don't have Fresh Market.
No, we don't have Fresh Market.
No.
Do you even know what I'm talking about when I say Fresh Market?
I'm assuming
at grocery store, I assume.
It's like it's a very high end. It's not a high end. It's very snooty, like grocery, like Southern.
Like a Whole Foods.
It's like nice. But there's okay. Anyway,
like a gourmet
grocery store.
Yeah. They play like classical music when you're walking around, and like you have but like they have a really really nice cheese section. Okay. So you're walking into Whole Foods, Fresh Market, and you're buying a whole wheel of Gouda on the Vikings. Is that what you're saying?
That's what I'm doing.
I should have gone for Trader Joe's. Would have been better, I guess. Maybe.
I'm good. Good to do it. Is that sure? We want to do
I don't even have a button for that. I was going to do it. But I don't know. What do I have here? Let's see. That's too long. It's Ryan Wilson. Fire Ryan Wilson. He was on TikTok one time. It's a whole thing. I'm going to say the Titans. I think the Titans minus 3.5. I know they fired their GM, and we talked about that at the beginning of the show. But like the Jaguars just got torched by the Lions in Detroit. And if the Jaguars had won that game, they would be able to go into Tennessee and potentially flip this division. Now, Mike Vrabel, like I'm buying the cheese on the I think I'm buying the cheese on the Titans. Like I think they're going to blister the Jaguars. Like the Jaguars are kind of packing it in. Trevor Lawrence is banged up a little bit. Yeah, the receivers are playing well, but like Vrabel's gonna get these guys hyped and be like, hey, Amy Adams Strunk, you see what happens when we get rid of the guy who's buying the groceries, going to the Fresh Market, buying me crappy groceries? Like now we're cooking.
Well, not only that, Will, I do think that there's something to be said for, the GM just got fired. Everybody's job is now on notice.
Yep.
Who was a GM guy, who was a Vrabel guy, and those players need to step up. This is an all hands on deck game a little bit, not only because, not just for their season, it's for their jobs on the roster.
Good call. Okay. Basta. I missed anything? No, that's everything. Anything else for this slate that sticks out to you guys? It's a really small. It's like there's 6 teams on bye. It's almost like borderline shocking to go from like a full Thanksgiving spread into this super condensed group of games with these.
And like 2 teams had buys last week, so why didn't they just do like 4-4 or whatever it was going to be. Like, I don't know. They could have scheduled that a little bit better, I think.
Yeah.
If we're talking about buying stinky cheese, give me the Niners. Give me the Niners -4. Okay, yes, I am a 49ers fan, as you can see in the background here. However, the line opened up as 3 before Monday Night Football. Then it quickly moved to 4 after seeing how the Bucs played last night. This Niners defense is going to do a number on Tom Brady and that offense. I mean, especially with Werfus out, and we talked about Nick Bosa. Nick Bosa coming for you. Number 1 in sacks, number 1 in quarterback hits, pass rush productivity, number 1, penalties drawn, number 1, like – Tom Brady is going to be under a lot of pressure, and he's not going to be very productive. And, who knows what Purdy can do. Hopefully he's a stud again and throws in tight coverage and can, do things on the move. But I don't think Tom Brady's going to do well. I don't.
I was hoping to look. I was looking up the Defensive Player of the Year prices. I was hoping Nick Bosa would be like 5-1. He's plus 240 at Caesars, which is maybe a little too short. Michael Parsons minus 380, but that's shrunk significantly over the last week, which is kind of interesting. There's the next closest is Chris Jones at 28-1. Interesting. I mean, Nick Bosa could easily win this award if the Niners win the division.
He should.
Yeah, and get like a top. If they win that division with Brock Purdy or Baker Mayfield.
Okay. Well, you want to prolong this podcast and talk about this one? No,
yeah, I was actually going to ask you about Baker. What happens if they? What is your reaction going to be as a Niners fan if they claim Baker this afternoon?
I'd be sick. I'd be sick to my stomach if that happened. Well, first of all, Purdy he's been in the system now for 13 weeks. He knows it. He's been going up again, in practice, going up against the best defense in the NFL every single week. Like, you're going to bring in Baker Mayfield and you expect him to learn a Shanahan offense this late in the season. I would just stick with Purdy as well. And, try to, I guess if you got Mayfield in, he would be a backup quarterback, but I don't even think it's worth it to bring him in there. I don't.
Sully, I got blistered on Monday night for suggesting that the Seahawks and the Buccaneers might claim Baker Mayfield ahead of the Niners to block them, just in case Purdy gets hurt.
That's what we talked about.
We talked about that. Sorry, yeah. No, but I got blistered later that evening after we talked about it. I brought it up on the.
I said failure is what you're saying. I planted the seed in your head, and
yeah, they crushed me for it. They were like, "You're an idiot. They're not going to claim Baker." I was like, "What? It's possible." Yeah, those a-holes blistered me. Wow. So I guess it's
possible that Baker goes nowhere.
It's possible. I think somebody will claim.
I think he gets claimed. It's a small amount of money. What did we say yesterday? Well, it was like $1.4 million. In base salary. Someone will claim him.
He's got that in Patriots banners behind.
Yeah. It's hidden under the safe under over here. Yeah, we're all good to go. Speaking really quick, one more pick. If we're gonna do a little homer section towards the end here, over on Patriots Cardinals. I'm gonna go over on that one. I think that the Patriots offense has been absolutely put through the ringer over the last few weeks after that Thursday loss to the Buffalo Bills. They're going up against the Cardinals defense that isn't particularly that good. I think they're 25th in the NFL in DVOA against the pass. I think you're going to see a little bit more of those deep shots that we saw on Thanksgiving. And on the other side of things, Patriots defense has been very good. One area where they've struggled is against mobile quarterbacks. Kyler Murray, I think that this is going to be well over that 44.
And I mean, only a real psychopath would suggest that this is a revenge game against former Patriots quarterback Cliff Kingsbury. No one would do that. I mean, no one on planet Earth would think about doing that. So we won't do that. We'll just actually did Steve Keim work for the Patriots too briefly? No. It was Jason Light who worked for the Patriots. So no, there's no revenge game there. Only a lunatic would suggest that. All right, that's the show. Katie Mox, fantastic stuff. Sully, as always, fantastic stuff. For Katie, for Sully, I'm Brinson. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. See you guys later.